Ken, welcome to the Point of Impact. I'm so happy you were able to make it, and I'm really looking forward to digging into your story and what you're up to today.
Aaron, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the opportunity to share and what it is that I do, what I'm trying to do, and how we could work together to achieve both of what we're trying to do.
Terrific. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, uh, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your background? What shaped uh, Ken Saveth's life and turned him into the man he is today?
Wow, that's a big it's a big thing to try to unpack. Currently, I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just celebrated my 40th wedding anniversary, and we're new grandparents. I moved here from New York back many years ago. Um,
No,
what kind of brought me
Brooklyn.
to
Yeah, Brooklyn, right?
New York? Yeah, Brooklyn.
What part? I lived in Brooklyn for a short time in between the Navy and the Army.
It's an interesting place. Speaking as a recovering New Yorker, uh, a lot of people in New York are maybe not as warm as I like to feel we are here in Oklahoma. So I've been here a number of times. Uh, I'm glad that I'm not there now. I mean, there's too much going on.
That's a big change. Culture, elbow room wise, is it Brooklyn to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma?
Yeah,
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 that's
Tulsa County.
it's about as drastic as my change from the Navy to the Army. So, please go on.
So after getting out of school and getting married, there was a time that I had mentioned to my wife I needed something to do. Try to stay fit. So she says, "Well, why don't you take up running?" And I thought, okay, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Let me take up some running. Get in a 5K or a 15K. Uh, but like many things, when you sort of hang around the wrong crowd, you get dragged into different things. And the next thing I knew, well, maybe I should do a marathon when I turned 40. So I did my first marathon at 40. And, a couple of marathons after that. And again, you hang around with the wrong crowd. Someone said, well, hey, there's a race in Houston
Hold on a
that,
second. Wait a second. Wait a second. Before we can't just glaze over that. You're 40 and you just decide to run a marathon. Was it as simple as registering and going for a 26.2 mile run? Was there any preparation whatsoever, or I just decided to do it and I did it?
there was quite a bit of preparation. I raised money for a group called Team in Training. It was for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And they had a program where you'd run your miles and kind of work your way up. So my first marathon was the Suzuki Rock and Roll Marathon. It was in 2000. So it was painful actually. And like many runners, I never want to do that again until you get home. And when you start feeling better, well, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I should try it again and do better.
That's it's how I explain all of my big adventures, whether it's climbing a mountain or whitewater kayaking or running, marathons and ultra marathons. And if you ask me leading up to the event and then after the event, I'll say I can't wait for it. I can't wait for the next one. It was awesome. What an incredible challenge. During the event, I'm like, I can't believe I talked myself into this again. I cannot believe somebody roped me into another one of these things. I can't, on top, I'm on the side of this mountain, or I've got 50 more miles to go, and I do not want to be here. So
Yeah,
I know that feeling.
that's the exact feeling you have. Um, so from there, I ended up kind of hanging out with a couple of friends, and they said, there was a 50K in Houston, and I think, wow, 50K. No, I don't want to do that. Uh, by degree, I'm an engineer, and so I started doing the math, and the particular race had an 11 and a half hour cutoff. And I thought, you know what? Well, 50K, a marathon is 42K. So statistically, it's only 8 more K than a marathon. And I had 11 and a half hours. So for me, the math worked out. And I thought, well, let me give it a try. So I did that. It was a trail run, and it was quite different than a road marathon. And I was hooked. I did it the next couple of years until the race kind of dwindled. But then what ends up happening is, well, guess what? There's a 50 miler coming up, and they have a different cutoff, and so you start doing the math, and then the math worked out. I did 50 miles on my 50th birthday with a friend who's also turned 50 the same month. And I thought that was a lot of fun. We ended up at a local park. We had a birthday cake, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, why shouldn't an ultra marathon be a party?
Hey,
The way you describe your evolution from marathon to 50K to 50 mile and up, it's kind of like the same philosophy a lot of ultra runners have, and it's just like my two toddlers, Tank and Dozer. Um, I can get away with that much. If I can do that much, I can probably get away with more. So, uh, yeah, that's the same way. If I can do 50 miles, I could probably do 100K. I could do 100 miles. Who knows how far I could go? And of course, we could go and get through the misery, it's almost immediately after the finish line. You think, that wasn't that bad. I could do that again. Maybe something else.
that's exactly what happened. So when I sort of migrated to the 100 miler, there was a series of races that they called Mother Road, which ran along historic Route 66. And they had several parts of the race separated by every other year to do different parts of the state. The first year I missed because I wasn't aware of it. The second part, I jumped into that, and about halfway, my hydration, my training was not quite there. I got into the mode of shivering of the races in the season when it's a little colder. I couldn't stop shivering, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to call it. The year after, when they had the next third leg, which was not far from here, I actually pulled that one off, and it was entirely on road. When I got done, I honestly felt like I was hit by a bus. It was quite a feat. It was very satisfying in the sense that I finished it. It wasn't a good sight watching me, hobble around the house, going up and down stairs backwards, trying to nurse all my sore areas. But I seem to have been hooked, and the next several 100 milers after that were on trails, which is like sort of running on much softer terrain. Again, people, and you understand this, people don't have a concept of, well, why would you want to do that? Is there someone chasing you? Well, I said, look, from a technical standpoint, if you have 100 miles and you have a 30-hour cutoff, that's an 18-minute mile, which means that technically you could probably walk that fast, although you wouldn't be able to go to the bathroom, change your shoes, or rest at all. So if you did any jogging whatsoever and you sort of bank that time, you could easily finish 100 miles in 30 hours.
Yeah, I mean, an 18-minute mile that is actually a slow stroll. Uh, if you, and I think that's how I burnt myself out the first few 100 milers, is that I tried to run it. I tried to go too fast, and then I was forced to. I just burned myself out when it was slow, and injured my feet, and couldn't even go at a slow stroll, and had to take frequent breaks, and barely made it under the cutoff time. I think the first 3 100 milers for me, none of them were. I had less than 30 minutes left in all three of them. So I'm like a cutoff king. But you're right. Anybody can walk an 18-minute mile. You string 100 of them together. It's a different story, no matter how fast you're going.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I ended up. During that time, I kind of had I don't know if you want to say it was a vision or an idea. There's a lot of people, many people who say they can't do something with no real tangible evidence. It's just they decided internally that I can't do something. And I've got a stack of books at my office of people who have actually, beat the fact that certain people can't do certain things. You'll find someone who lost a foot during a boating accident who ended up climbing all the highest peaks. You'll find someone like Eric Weinmeier, who's the first blind climber to climb Mount Everest. You'll find lots and lots of people. Dan Caro, who was caught in a fire at 2 years old, is one of the most prominent jazz drummers in New Orleans. So there's people decide that they're going to do something, and they just do it. And other people say, well, I stubbed my foot this morning getting out of bed. I don't think I can go to work. And so they sort of limit themselves about what they can achieve in life. And so I ended up starting a nonprofit organization, which I struggled with, and I actually still struggle with. I wanted to be able to be a catalyst to help people to break out of what I believed were self-set, self-limiting boundaries. And, I really struggled with it a lot, to the point where, I didn't want to be doing it for the sake of profit. I wanted to do it for the sake of helping other people. And I shared that with a very good friend of ours who's a priest at the local church. And he asked me a very, very pivotal question. I said, Father, I don't want to do this for the wrong reason, and I keep putting it on the back burner. I keep pushing it off. And he said, have you ever thought that maybe God's trying to get your attention? And that was the one thing that I actually didn't think of. I thought I was being selfish. And, after a lot of prayer, I ended up starting my foundation. Of course, it's just me. I don't have anyone that works for it. Most of the endeavors that I do, I pay for out of my pocket. And, if I find a cause, there's a couple of the local children that are here that have really struggled. 100% of the profits I make for any of my races, I just write a check. The race fees, me buying my food and whatever that is, I just pay for that myself. So that's kind of where it was. Now, the last 6 years, I've kind of been on a hiatus in a way. I have felt called to the clergy. And so within the church, I felt that maybe I should be serving the church more. So just in June, I was ordained a permanent deacon in the church.
I read that on your social media page and Facebook page. Congratulations! That's quite an accomplishment.
I've told some people, I said, I get another wife, but I get to keep my old wife because now I'm married to the church. I get another boss. I keep my old boss, but because now I'm kind of working for the bishop. It pays nothing, but it's got some great death benefits, and it allows me to serve other people in a way that I'm real passionate about.
I just had another conversation, and it was all circled around limitations and service, and it all. In fact, my friend and the conversation I was having with him, Eric, he was everything in his life circled around service. How could he be of greater service? His partners, his fellow veterans, and the community in general. The homeless community of veterans, and uh, it's great to have that as a core value, and because what he said, the feeling was, and I'm sure it's the same for you as it is for me, is it almost feels like a selfish act to be of service because it feels so good. Does that sound like that's the feeling you've had?
It is. My second 100 miler, and I struggle actually to I struggle to keep the emotion out. But my second 100 miler, I had raised money for a young boy locally here who had a leg amputated at 3 months old, and so I was raising money to try to help his parents, kind of help with things. I mean, obviously it's going to be challenging, for that family, and so we raised a few $1,000s. And it was a rails to trails event. So 50 miles out, 50 miles back. And, as you know, with a lot of races, you have crew, you have people that pace you and whatnot. And we were about 8 or 10 miles from the finish. And my pacer was just talking to me, and he said to me, "Oh, by the way, little Lincoln and his family drove up, and they're at the finish line waiting for you." And then he looked at me. He goes, "You know what? I think you need to finish this on your own." He says, "I'll see you at the finish line." He had taken off. Of course, by then, I had run about 92 miles. So the last 8 miles, I was kind of in my own thoughts. When I crossed the finish line, that little boy ran up to me with his prosthetic leg and wrapped his arms around me, and I just lost it. I mean, emotionally, I just lost it. I had a check in my backpack that I ran the whole race, and I handed it to his dad. I shared that with a lot of people, and that's very satisfying when that happens. I tend to be a very emotional person, maybe more so than most when it comes to helping others.
I've got another friend who, for the greater the challenge, the bigger the race or whatever he's doing, the bigger the fundraising goal. Not only because, but one of the reasons is because it's greater the stakes. If he somehow starts thinking about quitting or giving up, he's got too much riding on it. So it's a great incentive to rise to a challenge, whatever it is. If it's climbing a mountain, if it's running an ultra marathon, if it's becoming an entrepreneur, or just being a member of society, of the community. The more you think about how your acts affect others, it actually is incentive to do better. So I love that I was just thinking about you running with that check in your pocket the entire way. I can't imagine that it turned out very well.
Now, but it was in my hydration pack in a plastic bag. It survived. But so I'm kind of back, trying to get, now that I'm out of school and I'm sort of getting more active in the church. I still work full time. The challenge part that I have is, the nonprofit organization that I started, it's a 501c3. Essentially, it's me. I mean, social media is me, fundraising is me, the events that I try to do is me. When I'm looking out to say, I wonder who needs help. Well, unfortunately, when you offer help, everyone lines up because everyone wants help. Everyone wants a handout. And then it's, well, how do you sift out, who really does need the help, or who just wants a handout? Uh, so I'm sort of in a position where I'm trying to really kind of revitalize that now that I'm out of my schooling, and see what I could do. I'm looking at races, later in the fall to see what I want to do, and which kind of came up when I was, kind of bringing Lisa into the picture. When she decided that, she was friends with sister, and they decided to, well, maybe I should do this race. And they looked at how far it was from the convent to where she was, and it kind of was one of those providential things. When she ran 50 miles in 50 states in 60 days, well, when she ended up here in Tulsa, lots of people ran up and ran with her, and, got to know her. And we've had some conversations before. So, when I saw what she was doing, with helping you run at Badwater, I thought, I wonder what the opportunities would be. The chances are for what it is that you do in your life, things that you're passionate about, how I can help.
Well, first, yes, Lisa's an incredible coach, incredible person. I was extremely lucky to have met her, and that she's been coaching me on and off for 9 years now, and that she led my crew for Badwater. I really did have a stacked crew, and almost an unfair advantage there with Lisa and the other crew members. And it's terrific that you know her. In fact, I just came back from Jackson Hole, my family, and I went out for a little Yellowstone time and got to meet up with her for a bit and introduce her to the family. That was pretty cool. And I really love that you're doing so much for others, including becoming a deacon, and during your full-time job, and you started this nonprofit. And I'd forgive the pun, but don't keep me in the dark. What's it called?
It's called No Boundaries.
No Boundaries.
KNOW. No, N-O, boundaries. So no boundaries. And the logo that I
boundaries. I love it.
Yeah, and the logo was essentially a phoenix that's rising from the flames, and within the flames is a cross, kind of using the strength of God to kind of help us rise up and overcome, and sort of beat down the demons that I think are inside of each one of us, that a lot of them are that we set up ourselves. They're not really real boundaries, they're ones that we think are boundaries.
And how does this no boundaries function? What does it do? What is the good you want to see accomplished with this organization?
Essentially, what we do, I should say it's me, what I do, we try to interact with different people when we find, somebody who seems to have the mentality or the mindset that they can accomplish certain things. There's people who need financial help. There's people who need spiritual guidance. There's people who need friendship. I mean, a boundary could be many things. It's not all about, handing someone a check. Sometimes it's spending time with someone and talking to them, explaining, God's love for them, that they have this huge potential, and, if we need to, we'll find an event, and through the different social media platforms, we'll post the event, post the story about who it is that we've partnered with, whether it be Little Lincoln or whoever it is that we're trying to help out. I know the first event we did, it was a young adolescent who felt very free when her parents would push her in a wheelchair. She couldn't walk. She had I'm not sure if it was a cerebral palsy, but she couldn't do much. It's great when you're a young infant and you get pushed around in a stroller. But when you become, a teenager or an adolescent, you don't fit in a stroller any longer. And most insurance companies are not going to be paying for those kind of things that could essentially have this young girl feel free in a sense of being out with everybody else. So again, we raised the money and worked with the company who made the running stroller, so to speak, that you see a lot of people use when they're pushing people. Ainsley's Angels, I think, is an organization that's like that. And we were able to get that chair ready for there was a St. Patrick's 5K here that benefits Special Olympics. And once again, we provided a chair, and I was at the finish line when she and her dad crossed the finish line. And all she said was that she felt like she was not handicapped. She felt free because she was part of what everyone else was doing. And so that's kind of how we work. It's word of mouth. It would be great if No Boundaries was an organization that had an IT department and a social media person and people to help with fundraising. Is that a dream? Well, maybe that could happen. Right now, it's sort of helping one person at a time. And kind of like the story when you hear of, you've heard the story of the grandfather and grandson walking on the beach, and the grandfather is picking up starfish and he's throwing one at a time in. And the grandson looks at him and says, "Grandpa, you can't help everybody. Look at all these starfish. There's thousands of them." He goes, "Yeah, but for this one, it matters." And he throws it into the sea. So I guess for us, helping one person at a time who is in need is enough to just keep doing this, because it's going to matter to that one person.
Well, to backtrack on what you said a moment ago about sometimes it's not about just cutting a check, right? Some people just need a shoulder to lean on or to be shown the way. You mentioned Eric Weinmeier. In fact, I know him pretty well. In fact, when I was trying to find my way as a new blind person, I looked up examples of what I could possibly do. And Eric's name just keeps popping up on the internet with blind plus outdoors and stuff. And I learned that a blind person had climbed Mount Everest. So I sought him out, and I actually climbed a mountain with him. I went to Peru in 2013 and climbed in the Andes with Eric. And I'll be joining him at his summit in just a few weeks. So it is exactly a great example of somebody who's found a way and is showing others. And sometimes that's really all I need is a little encouragement to know that it's possible, and sometimes a helping hand along the way. Of course, when it comes to equipment or other sorts of things, a little bit of money can go a long way, say for wheelchairs and adaptive equipment. So I appreciate all the work you are doing. Is there something others can do to help you and this vision of yours? What is it that if somebody wanted to help, how could they do that?
Really, the best way to help, I'm pretty easy to find, online, whether it be social media or, my cell number is on our website, to reach out, and help raise awareness of the fact that, we exist to try to help people break through the boundaries. So just getting the word out that people can make a difference in the world And, you know, uh, I don't know that this is probably a fair statement, but, you know, with a lot of this spiritual training that I have over the last 6 years, you know, I think I could bring a pretty unique perspective into helping people in some of their difficulties. Uh, you know, yes, I'm very passionate about my faith, um, but it's not an organization that pushes faith in the sense of, you know, we only work with people who are going to be of the same mindset as us, you know. But that's, to me, to have the heart of a servant is kind of where I resonate from. So people helping to get the word out that this is what I do, that we're willing to help, and then maybe the next step would be is to kind of maybe partially step in and see maybe they can help me to help those people. Sometimes it may be a friend that they have, and rather than saying, "Oh, here, I need you to talk to John Smith," is, "Hey, here's John Smith, who's my friend," and then we can kind of work with that person, and maybe get them to kind of help us in a way, whether because they may not be local, you know, it could be somewhere that's a little bit further than where I am.
Well, if somebody wants to reach out, what is that website? What are those social media handles? We'll put them in the show notes.
The website is www.knowboundaries. That's KNOWNO, and boundaries.org. We kind of have a presence on LinkedIn. You know, I don't know that I've kind of gotten really into the Instagram as much as others. Yeah, but, you know, definitely have a website. You know, and my number's there. You know, we've visited with a lot of different companies who I seem to think are pushing boundaries. You know, there's a lot of companies that have technology, that have things that they do, hydration, audio, you know, all different things that are pushing the so-called boundary of whatever the technology is in their industry. And we've reached out to them, and many of them have sponsored some of the races that we've done by donating product. We've used the product, we promoted the product to people who know No Boundaries is on our website, and you know, they get the recognition of, hey, we're helping an organization help people, and in the reciprocal, you know, we're actually saying, hey, they're helping us to help others. Go see who they are and see what they have to offer. Whether it's, again, we just now started a drink called Hoist, which was something that I had heard from someone else's podcast. So we're going to see how that works with our training. But there was a couple of years that we were doing some work with Monster. It's a local company, local group here, that the sales team was there, and she would donate cases and cases of Monster to the races that we would do. And of course, we would promote them. You know, people would drink the drink, and, you know, we kind of pat each other on the back, so to speak.
Monster, huh? It's like the official.
You know, it's not the healthiest thing, but they were enough to, you know, to acknowledge that there was a need for companies to help others. You know, they were willing to not only say, hey, we'd like to help, but, you know, here's quite a bit of some of the health food stores here, you know, and you would know this, at most of these ultras, a lot of people like bananas and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've partnered with Sprouts stores in the past, and they've given us literally cases and cases of oranges and bananas that we've taken out to all the races. And of course, you know, we have their logo on the shirt. Hey, you need to go out and promote Sprouts. They promote people who are trying to live a healthy lifestyle. And, you know, I thank them for their help, and people appreciate that.
I was just going to say, I know a few service members who I think subsist entirely on Monster. So it's interesting. What's next? Do you have any events, fundraisers, races coming up? What's coming up in the near future, and what's on the horizon?
The fact that I was just ordained in June Now I'm opening up my schedule to see what it is that I could do. I was potentially thinking of a race in October. Unfortunately, the timing is not off. It's a conflict with it. It was actually going to, since I haven't sort of been, ramping up my training since I've been in school, it'd be kind of ridiculous for me to say, yeah, I'm going to do a 100-miler in October. But I think pulling off a marathon is really, really, when I say it's an easy marathon, I mean, I think I could do that. The Fort Smith marathon is in I think October or November. Fort Smith from here it's a 2-hour drive. I think we're probably going to look at that. As far as fundraising, I'm just now getting myself back into the community as far as what it is that we're going to be doing. I'll probably going out, putting out some feelers in the community here or the community at large, if they know someone who needs some help, and how can we help? And then what would happen is I would make the call, have her build a relationship with that person. How can we help? What is it that you need? By the way, do you mind if I share your story? Because obviously, if you're going to be fundraising for a person, you do need their permission that, their picture may be somewhere on social media. You may be able to use a name. I mean, several years ago, I had a financial person said to me, people don't donate to a cause. They donate to a face. They donate to a person. They know my money is going to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, causes are okay, but when people's heartstrings are pulled and they want to help someone, it's because they can look at the face of a person that they know they're going to be trying to help. So we're in the process now of trying to find who that person is that we can help. With what you do, if there are some things that you have on your horizon that No Boundaries can be a part of, and kind of piggyback that some of our fundraising could go towards the same thing, kind of like, raising an awareness or funds for kind of a mutual benefit of someone, then I think that's exciting, or can be.
Terrific. That sounds great. I really do appreciate you coming on, telling me your story, what good work you're doing. Congratulations on becoming a deacon. And before we wrap up here, we've got your website. We've got, I don't blame you about Instagram. I'm terrible at taking photos, but we'll get all those links out in the show notes. I want to ask you, as a wrap up question, is there anything, a word of advice that you would give, just in general, somebody maybe having a little hard time or not quite know the next steps to take? What, in your experience, would you tell somebody? Any bit of advice you can think of?
I would say that when people reach a boundary or a so-called block, is that they need to realize that God has created them to be much more than they think that they are right now, that they're capable of so much more if they would only believe and take that chance. One of the things within No Boundaries, which I kind of started a couple of years ago, is called the Fig Whisperer. And this, it kind of plays on the parable of the fig tree in Scripture. So to kind of capture that in a nutshell, the fig tree actually produces figs. And, in part of that story, the fig tree wasn't producing any figs. And when Jesus cursed that fig tree, it died because it wasn't producing what it was supposed to produce. So my question to people is, are you producing figs? You were created for a purpose, and you need to find what that purpose is, and you need to find your inner fig.
Makes perfect sense. I think if we as a community, a society, there are just not enough people producing. We've gotten too easy with our hands out or sitting on our butts. So I totally agree. We need to get out there and start producing some more figs. Well, Ken, I really do appreciate your time. I love talking to you today. And again, I appreciate all the good work you're doing for our country, for our world, and your community, and specifically. Thank you for coming on, being a part, and being a point of impact.
Aaron, thank you for the time, and please reach out if we could help. And I'd love the opportunity to kind of attack a problem together.
Terrific. Well, let's talk. I hope we continue the relationship after this. All right.